I met her on a Tuesday outside the cafeteria. She was leaning against a brick column, listening to something on her phone with the cord tucked into her sleeve. People flowed around her like water around a rock. You couldn't miss her even if she was small. There was this stillness to her, the kind that makes you want to come closer and ask if she's waiting for someone. I was late for class and holding a coffee that was already lukewarm. She looked up as if she felt me staring. We had never seen each other before. She smiled, the kind of smile that looks half accidental, and then she said, "You look like you slept in a library." I said, "I work at one." It wasn't true. I meant I studied there a lot, which felt the same. She laughed, then covered her mouth like the laugh was a secret. "I'm Nora," she said, pushing off the column. She had a backpack with a yellow patch shaped like a lemon. The lemon had a face. "Do you have class now?" "Yeah," I said. "Bio. I can fake it. I'm Jake." "Jake with coffee," she said, like she was pinning me on a board in her head. "I have ethics. I don't like it when people talk in circles to say things they could say straight." She tilted her head, studied my coffee. "That's cold." I took a sip. She was right. "You want it?" "I don't take things," she said, and that sounded like a fact, not a rule. "Come on, I'll walk you." And she did. We didn't exchange numbers that day. I thought about it after, the way you think about a song stuck in your head. Her voice had been soft, but she dropped certain words like pebbles into water, watching the ripples. I wondered if she did that on purpose. I saw her again 2 days later. Same spot, same cord tucked into her sleeve. I said, "Still waiting on ethics?" "Still avoiding it," she said. "You look different." I shaved. "About time," she said. "It makes you look like you're here on purpose." I laughed. "What are you listening to?" I pointed at her sleeve. "White noise," she said. "It helps me think." "Do you want a better coffee?" We went to a place off campus with a chalkboard menu and a barista who wore a beanie even in the heat. She paid for both of us, ignoring my protests with a small shake of her head. "You can pay next time," she said. "Or you can pay me by not ruining your coffee with sugar." We sat by the window. The road outside was busy, and the glass hummed in a way that made the table feel alive. She took her phone out, set it face down, and never checked it. Most people get twitchy after a few minutes. She didn't. "Where are you from?" I asked. "North Side," she said. "We moved a lot when I was younger. Houses blend together after a while. You?" "Here," I said. "Been here forever." "Lucky," she said. "I like people who have roots. They know where they stand." Her fingers were thin, clean nails, a small scar on the knuckle of her index finger. She wiped a circle of condensation off the table with her sleeve, and then paused like she'd done something wrong. "My parents hate when I do that," she said. "They think it means I want to make messes. I think it means I want to clean them." "Are they strict?" "They're careful," she said. "They collect rules like other people collect stamps. You?" "My parents are fine," I said. "My mom bakes a lot. My dad falls asleep with the TV on. I have a little sister. She's 10. She steals my socks and makes puppets out of them. My mom pretends not to see." Nora smiled. "That sounds loud." It is. I like loud, she said. I like the idea of it. When we left, she stood too close to me as we waited to cross. Not touching close. Close like the idea of touching was present, like a line drawn on the ground that both of us looked at. When the light changed, she didn't move. I started forward and then realized she was watching my step, matching her foot to my foot, walking inside my rhythm like we'd practiced it. It wasn't creepy. It was precise. I remember thinking that word, precise, and wondering why it fit. We didn't make plans to see each other again. We just kept showing up. She said she'd be at the library at 8, and she would be there at 8, even if that meant she was there at 6 to be sure. She took notes by hand and underlined very lightly, almost a whisper of a line. She never seemed tired. Sometimes she'd stare at a page without moving, and I'd think she was stuck. But then she'd look up and summarize the whole chapter in one breath. The first time she did that, I laughed. She didn't. She watched me laugh and looked pleased, like she'd planted something and it grew. I introduced her to Mark after class one day. He's my closest friend. He's blunt in a way that saves time. We were outside, sun sharp in our eyes. Mark said, "So you're Nora, the library girl." "Is that my name now?" she said. "It is until you do something more interesting." "I'm full of surprises," she said. She didn't say it like a flirt. She said it like she'd checked a box. Mark looked at me when she wasn't looking. His eyebrows did a small jump. Later, when it was just us, he said, "She's intense." "Yeah," I said, "but not in a bad way." "I didn't say bad," he said, "just intense. Like she knows where you live and what time your bus comes." He meant it as a joke, but I felt a small prickle run down my arms. I laughed it off because that's what you do when nothing's actually wrong. Nora started showing up in places I'd be, even when I hadn't told her I'd be there. I'd walk into the corner store and she'd be by the coolers picking out a drink, lifting the bottle to see me over the top of the door. She'd say, "You always grab the same chips." And I'd say, "Maybe I found my thing." And she'd say, "I could be your thing." And then she'd look away like it was a joke, like she'd rehearsed the line and decided it wasn't ready yet. One night, she asked if she could come over to meet my family. We had been sitting on the library steps watching a group of people from the art department carry a giant sculpture that looked like a steel spine. She kicked the step with her heel. "I want to see where you keep your cups," she said. "Why?" I asked. "How people stack cups says everything about them," she said. I couldn't tell if she was serious. I said, "My mom will feed you until you die. My dad will tell you stories that start with 'back when' and end without an ending." "I can handle that," she said. "I want to see the Loud you were talking about." I told my parents I was bringing a friend for dinner. My mom was thrilled because she's always thrilled about feeding people. My dad was fine because he's fine about everything. My sister Lila painted her nails and asked if Nora liked stickers. Lila has a sticker book the size of a phone book. She peels the edges and leaves half-stuck stars on surfaces, like breadcrumbs. Nora came early. She had a small bouquet of flowers she said she found at a stand that was closing. They were tied with string, nothing fancy. My mom put them in a jar and said, "You're welcome here any time." And I saw Nora tuck that sentence away. She took her shoes off without asking and lined them up with ours. She washed her hands and dried them on the towel like she'd lived there. She asked if she could help and meant it. My mom gave her a knife and some carrots, and Nora's slices were as even as piano keys. At the table, she listened more than she talked. My dad leaned back in his chair and started in on his stories. Lila told Nora about a girl in her class who cried every time the class hamster squeaked. My mom kept adding food to Nora's plate, and Nora ate all of it. She laughed at the right times. She asked follow-up questions. She didn't fake anything. That's what tripped me. She didn't pretend to be interested. She was interested, down to the grease on the stove, and the way my dad cut his bread with his thumb there, like he wanted to risk it. When we took our plates to the sink, Nora leaned in close so my mom wouldn't hear. "Your family," she said in a low voice, "makes a room feel like a boat that won't flip." "That's good," I said. "It is," she agreed. And then her eyes flicked to the hall where Lila had disappeared to get her sticker book. "I get seasick sometimes," she added, "but not here." She stayed to help clean up. She dried the plates and put them in the cabinet without asking where things went. She guessed right most of the time. She opened the wrong door once, saw my mom's stack of takeout menus in a hole punch, and closed it with a soft click. Later, when she left, my mom said, "She has good hands." And I said, "What does that mean?" And my mom said, "You can tell when people are careful." She's careful. My phone buzzed the next morning at 7. It was a photo from Nora. The image was of our kitchen table, the corner where the wood is burned a little from that time I set a candle too close to a paper napkin. The caption said, "This is my favorite part." My stomach did a particular kind of flip that felt half like excitement and half like something I couldn't name. "How did you get that picture?" I asked when I saw her later. "I took it," she said, as if that explained the whole thing. "When?" "While you were showing Lila your old baseball cards." She didn't look guilty. She looked pleased that I'd noticed the caption. "Right," I said. "Well, that's weird." "Weird is honest," she said. The next time I went to her place, it was to meet her cups, as she put it. Her apartment was off campus, one of those old buildings where the walls are too thin and the floor slopes in the middle. She had plants on the windowsill that looked too alive to be real. Her kitchen was clean. Not museum clean, not scrubbed to death. Clean like someone thought about it. Her cups were all white, different shapes. No logos, no words. She stacked them neatly, smallest to biggest, and there was a small scrap of paper inside the top cup that said, "Hello," in thin black pen. "Who's that for?" I asked, holding the cup with the note in it. "You," she said like it was obvious. "Also me. Also anyone who comes in here that I want to like." She took the note out, smoothed it, and put it in a drawer. The drawer was organized by color, not in an aggressive way, in a way that looked effortless, which meant it wasn't. Her parents were coming by later, she said. They bring groceries sometimes. They think I'll starve on my own, she said. They think I'll forget to pay rent and get stolen. They think I'll open the door to anyone who knocks. They're not wrong. You shouldn't open the door to anyone who knocks, I said. She smiled at me in a way that made me feel like I'd said something tender. I know who to open the door for, she said. Do you want to meet them? I said sure. It felt like the next step. I expected warm people who over-explained things. I expected a mother who looked past you to see the dust, and a father who wore a hat even inside. I was half right. Her mother had asked permission to park in front of the hydrant, even though no one was watching. By the time she reached the top of the stairs, she was out of breath and still apologizing. "We won't be long," she said, before we even said hello. Her father carried a box of groceries like he was performing for an audience. He set it down on the counter, straightened the corners of the paper bag, and then said, "This must be the Jacob." He held out his hand, palm firm, a little wet from the condensation on a bag of lettuce. "Jake," I said, shaking it. "Jake," he repeated, testing the size of the word in his mouth. "It's good to finally meet someone she talks about." "She talks about me?" I asked, even as I felt Nora's eyes on me. "All the time," her mother said. "You eat dinner with your family every night. You have a sister who reads under the table. Your mother bakes. You keep bees." "I don't keep bees," I said. "She meant you like honey," Nora said, and brushed her fingertips against my wrist, a brief anchor. Her parents were polite, overly polite, like old neighbors who hadn't decided if you were going to be trouble. Nora poured them water without being asked. They sat. Her father watched me watch Nora, and his mouth did something that could have been approval or warning. As they were leaving, her mother turned in the doorway and said, "We only worry because we love you." "I know," Nora said. She looked at me when she said it. Later, as we stood in her kitchen, she said, "They can love me from a distance. That's still love." We fell into a rhythm that was nice. We didn't say we were dating. We didn't say we weren't. She started texting me in the morning, nothing dramatic. "Drink water. Eat something green. Stretch." I sent her pictures of Lila's latest sticker arrangement on the fridge. She sent me pictures of the backs of people's heads on the bus and wrote little captions like, "This one is thinking about leaving," or "This one is counting." I would ask how she knew, and she'd say, "Everyone leaves," or "Everyone counts." One night she asked to see my room. She said it like she was asking to borrow a book. I said, "Okay, but you have to step over laundry." She said she preferred environments where she could improve things. "If it's perfect, what do you do?" she asked. She looked at my posters, bands I only half liked now, the corners curled, and at my desk with the carved initials from when I pressed a compass into the wood. She didn't touch anything at first. She sat on the floor, pulled one of my shirts into her lap, and smoothed it with her hands like a cat. "I like it here," she said. "It smells like pencil shavings and bread." "That's the best compliment I've ever gotten," I said. "Don't change anything yet," she said, even though I hadn't moved. "Let me memorize it." She took pictures. One of the fan with dust on the blades. One of the corner where the wall is cracked in a thin line that looks like a river. One of the window latch. She didn't ask. She didn't need to. It didn't feel invasive. It felt like being held down very gently and told to breathe. We kissed for the first time while a neighbor's dog barked in the yard. It wasn't fireworks. It was soft and exact. She kissed like she was reading instructions she had written herself and now was testing to see if they worked. When we pulled away, she put her hand on my chest and said, "Okay," in a way that sounded like a conclusion. After that, the edges of my days got smoother. I thought of her when I woke up and when I brushed my teeth and when I stood in line for copies, and when I crossed the street and pressed the button for the light, even though it doesn't make the light change any faster. She laughed at things I said that no one else heard. She noticed when I skipped lunch and left a granola bar in my bag without telling me. I noticed the small scratch on her phone case and the way she always wrote the date at the top of any page she used, even if it was a grocery list. I noticed that she didn't like when people were late. If someone said they'd meet her at 6 and showed up at 6:05, she froze them out like they'd broken something expensive. "Time is a promise," she said once, when Mark bailed on plans at the last minute. "It's the only thing we have that means anything." "Does that mean you're never late?" I asked. "I'm early," she said without pride. "I don't expect it from everyone. Just the ones I care about." Mark started seeing less of me and said so. "I know how this goes," he said. "You two become one blob, and then if you break up, I'm supposed to help you find your furniture again." "We didn't become a blob," I said. "We're just busy. She's good for me." "I didn't say she wasn't," he said. "I said she's intense. You keep saying that. Because it's true." He finished his fries and pushed the boat of ketchup to the side, leaving a red crescent. "Be careful." "Of what?" "I don't know yet," he said. Nora met him for coffee once without me, and didn't tell me until later. It came up because she mentioned the place where they'd gone, and how the sugar packets had been arranged by color, which she liked. I felt a small sting. "Why didn't you ask me to come?" I asked. "I wanted to hear what he would say when you weren't around," she said. She wasn't trying to be cruel. She said it like a scientist who had set up a control group. "What did he say?" "That he'd known you for a long time and he thinks he knows you better than anyone," she said. "That tracks," I said. "He probably does." "He doesn't," she said. "But it's okay that he thinks that." "Why doesn't he?" She touched my chin with her finger and turned my face left a little, like she was lining me up with a horizon. "Because he likes you as a past tense version," she said. "I like you the way you are. I like you the way you'll be." I didn't know what to do with that. It made me feel seen in a way that wasn't always comfortable. It's one thing to be seen. It's another to be understood too hard. My mom kept asking about her. She liked Nora. You could see it in the way she set an extra place at the table without thinking. My dad liked her because she asked him questions about things he knew, and then listened. Lila loved her because Nora let her choose a sticker to put on Nora's phone case. Lila picked a small blue whale. Nora placed it on the corner and smoothed it with her thumb. "Now you're with me," she told Lila. "Always." Lila glowed for a week after that. She started drawing whales on everything. Nora sent pictures of the whale sticker to me with captions like "crew member" and "best navigator." The first crack showed up on a night that didn't ask for anything. We were in my room, and I was texting Mark about a group project. He was late with his part. Nora watched my fingers move and said, "He always does this?" "Sometimes," I said. "He's juggling stuff." "He's juggling you," she said. "That's different." "It's fine." "You say that a lot," she said. "Is it?" I put my phone face down. "It's college," I said. "Everyone is a little unreliable." She tilted her head as if testing the word unreliable in her mouth and finding it sour. "When's the last time I was unreliable?" she asked. You aren't, I said. Exactly, she said. Then why do you tolerate it in other people? Because I have to. Or because you think you're supposed to, she countered. You can decide who gets your time. I didn't want to fight, so I said, okay, and leaned over to kiss her. She let me, but her mouth was distracted. She pulled away and stared at the crack in my wall. Do you like him? She asked, still looking at the crack, as if the question was for the wall. He's my friend, I said. That's not what I asked, she said. I didn't answer because I didn't know what she wanted me to say. She turned her face slowly back to me and smiled in a way that hit dimmer than usual. I like that you're loyal, she said. It would kill me if you weren't. That should have worried me. It didn't then. It landed as a sweet thing said too strongly. I filed it under Nora being Nora and moved on. We started sleeping at her place more. She had fewer neighbors who slammed doors. She had a window that faced a tree, and the leaves threw shadows on the wall that looked like sentences I couldn't read. She slept with her hand flat on my chest, not possessive, just present. The first time I woke up and she wasn't touching me, I felt like I'd fallen off a curb. I reached for her and found her sitting on the edge of the bed, staring at the floor. What time is it? She asked without looking back. I don't know, I said. Early. She nodded. I had a dream, she said. Good or bad? It was a map, she said. But when I followed it, it brought me back here. And then I had to go again. That sounds tiring, I said. It was, she said. She turned and looked at me like a question. Do you ever feel like there are duplicates of your life running next to you? Like parallel universes, I said. No, she said, and shook her head in a tight, irritated way like she'd bitten something and it crumbled wrong. Not like that. Like people wanting different things from you at the same time. And if you pick one, you kill the other one. I try not to think of it like killing, I said. Maybe you should, she said very softly, and lay back down. The next day she asked if she could come with me to Lila's school play. It's a silly thing, I warned. They're all mushrooms and rabbits. Lila is a tree. I like trees, she said. They stand still. We sat in the back. Parents kept waving at their kids even while the kids were on stage. Lila kept adjusting her green paper leaves. Nora watched her with such focus that I had to whisper, "It's okay to blink." She didn't laugh. After when we met Lila in the hall and told her she was great, Nora crouched down and said, "You were the only one who remembered to breathe in between your lines. That's why yours sounded like words people say." Lila looked like she wanted to tell everyone what Nora had said. My mom hugged Nora on impulse, and Nora let herself be hugged with her arms at her sides, then put her hands on my mom's forearms and squeezed, like she was measuring something. On the way home, in the car, Nora said, "She's very easy to love." Lila? She is. Your mother is too, she added, almost like a test. Your father is hard to read, but in a nice way. He's like a song you don't know but can hum. That's very you, I said. What does that make me? She didn't answer right away. She watched the curb go by, the way some people watch other people's windows. You're the reason for things, she said finally. You're what everything else makes sense around. That's not true, I said. It is to me, she said. Things started happening that felt small on their own, but added up like stacked plates. There was a girl from my ethics class who asked if I wanted to join a study group. I said sure, because I needed to pull my grade up, and because she was nice in a way that felt uncomplicated. We met in the cafeteria. Nora showed up halfway through. She didn't sit with us. She sat 2 tables over with a notebook and a glass of water, and she wrote down things that weren't notes. Every time I looked up, she looked away. When the study group ended and the girl left, Nora came over and said, "You don't need her." "It's a study group," I said. "It's not adoption papers." "She had lip gloss on her teeth," Nora said. "She wanted you to tell her." "I didn't notice." "She noticed that you didn't notice," Nora said, like she'd just solved a puzzle. "Don't go back." "I'm going back," I said. She didn't argue. She nodded slowly. "Okay," she said. "I hear you." I went back the next week. The girl wasn't there. Someone said she'd switched to a different group that met earlier. I didn't think much of it until later, when I found a message in my inbox from her. It was short. "Hey, sorry if I overstepped. Your girlfriend asked me not to talk to you. I didn't want to cause trouble." It took me a full minute to process it, like my brain was stuck between gears. I went straight to Nora's apartment. She let me in with a smile that dropped when she saw my face. "You told someone not to talk to me?" I asked. She didn't pretend she didn't know what I was talking about. "Yes," she said. "Why?" "Because she wanted something from you," she said, as if it were a weather report. "Because she would have taken your time and given you noise. Because I asked nicely." "That's not your call to make," I said. I heard my voice break on the last word, and I hated it. She came closer and put her hands on my shoulders. "Do you want me to protect you or not?" she asked. "I don't need protection from a study group," I said. "You don't know what you need," she said, and her voice was still calm, but it had a thin wire in it. "That's why I'm here." I stepped back. Her hands slid down my arms and let go. For a second, something moved in her face that looked like surprise. Then it was gone. "I'm sorry," she said. She said it slowly, like she was tasting each letter. "I didn't mean to make you feel small." "I don't feel small," I said. "I feel crowded." Her eyes flicked to the window, then back to me. She nodded once, a definite little nod. "I won't do it again," she said. I wanted to believe that. I did believe it for a week. Then Mark called me. He didn't usually call. He preferred text or hitting me on the arm. "So," he said, "your girl told my girlfriend that I'm a problem." "What?" I said. "Yeah," he said. "She said I keep you up late and take you places you don't need to be. She said I don't have your best interest at heart. She said I'm selfish." "What did you say?" I said, "Who are you?" He laughed, but it didn't have a lot of air in it. "What's going on, man?" "I don't know," I said, which was true and not. "I'll talk to her." "Do that," he said, "and maybe talk to yourself while you're at it." I went to Nora's again. The door was unlocked. She was sitting on the floor with a pile of photos spread out around her. They were all pictures she'd taken in tiny moments. my shirt sleeve wrinkled at the elbow, the dent my backpack makes in my shoulder, the back of my neck. She had a pen and she was writing on the backs. I picked one up. On the back, in neat thin letters, she'd written, "Laugh wrinkle, left side, 5th down when he's tired." "Did you talk to Mark?" I asked. "Yes," she said. "Why?" "He gets in the way," she said. "Of what?" "Of us," she said. She looked up and said it plain, with no lace on it. "He takes you away from me. He makes you smaller. He holds you to who you were instead of who you are." "He's my friend," I said, like I was telling her my eye color. "He doesn't have to be," she said. I put the photo down. My hands were shaking. "You don't get to choose my friends," I said. "I don't want to choose your friends," she said. "I want to choose your peace." "That's not yours to choose." My voice didn't shake now. It was flat, trying to build a surface sturdy enough to stand on. "You can't be in every room." "I can," she said, and it landed so soft I almost missed the meaning. Her eyes were bright, but not wet. She wasn't crying. She wasn't sad. She had that look she gets when she puts a puzzle together, like she'd found the corner piece, and everything was about to fall into place. "I can be if you let me." I slept at home that night. My mom made tea without asking. My dad fell asleep with his glasses on. Lila stole my socks and made them bow to each other. I lay in my room and stared at the crack in the wall. My phone buzzed with a message from Nora every hour on the hour. "Are you okay? Eat something. Drink water. I love you." That was the first time she'd said that. It should have felt huge. It felt like a very small stone dropping into a very full bucket. I didn't respond until morning. I typed, "We need space." Then I deleted it. I typed, "Stop talking to my friends." Deleted that too. What I sent was, "Busy today. Talk later." She wrote back immediately, "Okay." She didn't text for the rest of the day. That should have made me relax. Instead, my stomach felt like static. I checked my phone every 10 minutes anyway. When I got home, there was a small envelope under the doormat with my name on it. Inside was a key. No note. Her apartment key. A line formed in my head and then erased itself. I put the key in my pocket and went upstairs. Lila asked me to put a whale sticker on my laptop. I did. It looked like the one on Nora's phone. I thought about peeling it off, then didn't. The next morning, Nora was on my porch. She sat on the top step with her hands in her sleeves. She stood when she saw me and smiled like everything was normal and fine and every day. "Walk me to class?" she asked. I hesitated. She saw it. Her smile didn't change, but the temperature behind it did. "Just a walk," she said. "I can be quiet." We walked. She was quiet. We passed the corner store where the guy with the beanie sometimes sneaks expired candy to kids. We passed the mural with the girl blowing stars out of her hands. When we reached the tree at the edge of campus, she stopped. "I thought about it," she said. "You're right. I can't be in every room. I don't want to be your problem." "You're not my problem," I said. The words were true to a point, and then not. "I don't want you to be scared of me," she said. "I'm not." "Good," she said, and took my hand. "I can love you the right way." We tried to reset. It worked for 3 days. On the 4th day, I found a note in my backpack in her handwriting. It said, "Don't walk home alone tonight." It wasn't a warning so much as an instruction. I took the bus. When I got off, she was there at the stop, hands in her sleeves again. We didn't talk about the note. A week later, I came home and my mom was sitting very still at the table with her hands flat on the wood. The stove was off. The house smelled like dish soap. She looked up like she'd heard my keys before I touched them. "What?" I said, already bracing without knowing what for. "A girl called," she said. "Nora?" She didn't say her name, my mom said. She wanted to know if we always keep the back door unlocked. I felt something slide through me like a thin blade. "What did you say?" "I said we lock it," she said. "Which we do." She tried to smile. It didn't land. "Is that your girlfriend?" "She's not my girlfriend," I said automatically. "She sounds like she cares about you," my mom said, like she was trying to decide if that was good or bad. "She said we should be careful. She said there are people who would take something from us if we weren't." "Did she say who?" I asked. "She didn't," my mom said. "She sounded sweet, like she was trying very hard to be polite." She took a breath. "Is everything okay, Jake?" "It's fine," I said, my voice a little too fast. "It's okay." That night I went to Nora's apartment with the key she'd given me. I let myself in. She was on the floor again with the photos. She didn't act surprised to see me. She looked up and smiled like I was right on time. "You can't call my house," I said. "I can call your house," she said. I did. "You can't ask about our locks," I said. "You leave the porch light on," she said. "That's an invitation. You should fix that." "It's not your job to fix it," I said. She set the pen down and folded her hands in her lap. "I want you to be safe," she said. "I want your family to be safe." "We are." "You think so," she said. "But you're not." "From what?" "From people who don't care about you the way I do," she said. "From people who think you're a good story and not a life." I put my hands in my hair and pulled. "What does that even mean?" "It means," she said, and now there was that wire in her voice again, humming, "that you leave your phone face down when you're with me, and face up when you're with them." "That's not a thing," I said. "It is," she said. I counted. "Nora," I said, and my voice cracked again, which annoyed me and probably made me sound 12. "You're scaring me." She blinked. Her mouth softened. She tilted her head like I was speaking another language, and she wanted to get the grammar right. "I don't want to scare you," she said. "I want to make this easy." "Make what easy?" "Us," she said. "Everything else is noise." I left before I said something that would get stuck in my throat and live there. Outside, the air felt like it had been used already, like I was breathing what someone else had exhaled. I went home. I didn't sleep. Every sound was a step on a stair. The next day, Mark and I were supposed to meet at the field and throw a ball around, something we did when we didn't want to talk, but needed to stand next to each other. I waited 20 minutes. He didn't show. I texted him. No answer. I called. Straight to voicemail. I walked to his place, which was only 10 minutes away. His door was shut. I knocked. Nothing. I went around the back and looked through the kitchen window. He was there, sitting at the table, head in his hands. When I knocked on the glass, he looked up. His eyes were red. He opened the door and pulled me in by the sleeve. "What happened?" I asked. "Somebody called my mom," he said. Mark doesn't cry. He looked like he had tried very hard not to. They told her I was dealing. They told her I keep pills in my sock drawer. She tore my room apart. She called my aunt. She told me to leave. Who would? She did, he said, and I didn't need to ask who he meant. She used my mom's church voice. Said she was a friend. Said she was worried. Said she didn't want to see me ruin my life or yours. I pressed my fingers against my eyelids until I saw spots. "I'm sorry," I said. He laughed and then clamped his mouth shut to stop it. "It wasn't you," he said. "But you brought her to the party." I wanted to argue. I wanted to say that Nora was complicated and misunderstood and not evil, as if those were meaningful categories that would help. Instead, I said, "I'll fix it." "How?" he asked. "I'll talk to her." "Talk fast," he said, and went to his room to keep pretending to look for pills that weren't there. When I left his house, I called Nora. She answered on the first ring. "Hi," she said. "Where are you?" "Don't do that," I said. "Don't ask like you have a right to know." Silence. Then, "Okay." "You called Mark's mom," I said. "You told her lies." "I told her to be careful," she said. "You told her he was dealing." "He's not." "She'll check," Nora said. "Then she'll know." She trashed his room. She told him to leave. "She'll apologize," Nora said. "Mothers always do when they realize they were wrong. It'll be good for them." "You can't show up in people's lives and pull strings like this," I said. "I can," she said, not stubborn so much as factual. "It helps." "It doesn't," I said. "It burns things." "Sometimes you have to burn things to get rid of rot," she said calmly. I learned that from my dad. He burned a shed once because the mold wouldn't stop. "I don't know what to say to you," I said. "Say you love me," she said quietly. I closed my eyes. I wanted to say it. I also wanted to hang up and throw my phone into the river and watch it sink and feel that sick feeling that means you finally did the thing you were afraid to do. "I'm coming over," I said instead. "Good," she said, and I could hear the smile in her voice. I made tea. When I reached her building, her door was open. She was on the floor again, but the photos were gone. The floor was bare. She had a small box next to her, and inside it was a stack of envelopes. Each envelope had a date and a word. Monday, breath. Tuesday, spine. Wednesday, voice. I picked one up. It felt heavy. "What is this?" I asked. "Letters," she said. "For later." "Later when?" "In case you forget," she said, and tilted her head again, a small bird motion. "I know how to remind you." "You can't plan my forgetting," I said, trying to make a joke because I wanted to use my soft voice and not my angry one. "I can plan my remembering," she said. "That's almost the same." She patted the floor next to her, and I sat. She leaned her head on my shoulder. We sat like that for a long time. The tea got cold. When I stood to leave, She took my hand and held it like she was shaking it, like we'd just made a deal. That weekend, my parents invited Nora and her parents over for dinner. It was my mom's idea. We should do a real thing, she said. Eat together. Show people who we are. She thought that would help. My mom thinks meals fix most things. Sometimes she's right. Nora didn't want to do it. They don't like me, she said of her parents. They love you, I said, because that's what parents do in the stories we tell to keep from breaking. They bring you groceries. They bring groceries because it's easier than bringing themselves, she said. But fine. We'll do the performance. I told her it wasn't a performance. She looked at me like I was cute for trying. They came at 6. Her father wore a sweater with an elbow patch. Her mother carried a pie that she kept apologizing for, as if pies were new and confusing. My dad cut bread. My mom set out too many plates. Lila wore a dress, even though that meant she couldn't climb over the back of the couch the way she likes to. We sat. We ate. We asked questions. We told stories. It was almost normal. If you looked close, you could see threads going the wrong direction. Her mother said, Nora was such a quiet child. And Nora said, I was not. And her mother smiled with her mouth and not her eyes and said, You were quiet in the right ways. And Nora did not respond. Her father told a story about a trip to the lake where Nora caught a fish and refused to let it go. She cried and cried when we put it back, he said, laughing. She didn't understand that it wasn't ours to keep. Nora looked at him like she was trying to remember what lake, what fish, what crying. I understood, she said. I just didn't agree. After dinner, while my mom and her mom stood at the sink with their elbows touching in that way women do when they're trying to bridge a gap with movement, Nora and I sat on the back step. The porch light was on. She looked up at it and said, You should change that bulb. It makes a halo that says, We're here, too loud. It's a porch light, I said. It's an announcement, she said. But maybe you like announcing. I like being found, I said, surprising myself with how honest that was. I found you, she said. Yes, I said. You did. She leaned into me, and I set my chin on her hair. Do you trust me? She asked, not as a challenge, but like a child asks if they can jump off a rock into your arms. Yes, I said, and felt the word leave me like a bird I couldn't call back. The next morning, my mom said, Her parents are complicated, which was her way of being kind. They did their best, I said. We all do, she said, which was her way of arguing. Nora started spending more time at my house. At first it was nice. She fit. She sat at the table and helped Lila with math, and Lila didn't cry when she got stuck, because Nora didn't make being stuck feel like a moral failure. She watched TV with my dad and asked him about shows he used to watch. She baked with my mom, measuring flour like she was weighing choices. I would come home and find her folding laundry with my mom, matching socks like she had stock in them. I would feel a curl of something in my chest that I couldn't decide if I liked. One afternoon I got home and the house was very quiet. It wasn't the quiet of everyone taking a nap. It was the quiet of a room holding its breath. I walked in and found Nora sitting at the table with my parents and Lila. They were all looking at Nora. Nora was telling a story about crossing the street when she was 8 and getting lost, and how a woman with a red scarf walked her home. It was a good story, the kind that makes you feel warm for strangers. When she finished, my mom said, "People are good," and Nora said, "Some are," and her eyes slid to me, and then back to Lila. Later, when Nora and I were alone in the hall, she said, "They'd be easy to love if they weren't yours." "What does that mean?" I asked. "It means love changes shape when it belongs to more than one person," she said, almost like she was sad about it. "It stretches thin." "Love isn't pizza," I said. "It is," she said. "Everyone takes a slice. I don't like what that leaves." "You don't have to like it," I said. "You just have to live in it." "I can make a new pizza," she said, smiling slightly, as if this solved something. "One where no one else has hands." That night, for the first time, I locked my bedroom door with the small click I hadn't used since Lila learned to open doors with a butter knife. It didn't feel like a big deal. It felt like a seatbelt. I slept badly anyway. I kept waking up and checking the corners. I got mad at myself for being jumpy without a reason. The following week, Nora invited me to dinner at her parents' house. She said it like a dare. "They want to see you," she said. "They want to see who did this to me." "Did what?" "Made me like this," she said, motioning to herself in a messy circle. "Hungry." Her parents lived in a tidy townhouse with hedges cut in straight lines. Your foot falls softer on their carpet because the pad underneath is thick. They had pictures on the wall of Nora at every age. In none of them did she look straight at the camera. She was always a degree off to the side. Her mother made chicken with lemon. Her father poured wine, and then poured half of it back into the bottle when it looked like too much. We sat. We ate. The conversation moved like a parade that had forgotten its banners. Her father said, "So, Jacob, what are your plans after graduation?" And I said, "I'm not sure yet." And he said, "That's honest." And her mother smiled and said, "It's okay not to know," in a way that sounded like she thought it was not okay at all. When we left, Nora kissed her mother's cheek, and her mother didn't lean in. In the car, Nora laughed, not happy. "They think you're dangerous," she said. "They think you'll make me stop answering my phone." "I won't," I said. "I know," she said, but she didn't sound convinced. We kept going like this, good days and bad days, like breathing, out, in, out, in. And then one day I got a message from an unknown number with a photo attached. The photo was of me and Nora at the bus stop, her hand on my chest, my head tilted down, the gentleness of it making my skin go hot. The message said, "I know what you're doing." No name, no context. I showed it to Nora. She looked at it without blinking. "It's a nice picture," she said. "Who sent it?" "I don't know," she said. "It doesn't matter." "It does," I said. "It matters if someone is watching us." "Everyone is always watching everyone," she said, as if this was just a fact. "You're watched at the grocery store. You're watched by your neighbors. You're watched by the person in the car behind you who wants you to turn sooner." "This is different," I said. She took the phone, deleted the message, and handed it back. "There," she said. "Now it's not. You can't just erase things." "I can," she said. "Watch me." I started looking over my shoulder on the street. I started double-checking the lock on the back door twice, then 3 times. I started putting my phone face up no matter where I was, like a promise to a ghost. Nora noticed and didn't say anything. She didn't need to. She kept moving closer to the center of my life like a person inching toward the warmest part of the fire. One evening, after a long day where none of my brain did what I asked it to, I went to her apartment unannounced. I wanted to see her. I wanted the simple thing of being near her. Her door was ajar. I pushed it open and stepped in. The photos were back on the floor. She was not alone. Her parents were there. Her mother sat rigid on the couch, a purse in her lap like a shield. Her father stood by the window with his hands in his pockets. Nora stood between them, a small line of defense. They all turned when I entered, and for a second I felt like I had walked into a staged picture and ruined the shot. "Hi," I said. "I can come back." "No," Nora said quickly. "Stay." Her mother shook her head almost imperceptibly. Her father sighed. There was a smell of something citrus and sharp. Nora had a lemon on the counter, cut in half. The knife next to it was clean. "We were just talking," her father said. "About what?" I asked, because I am not always smart. "About boundaries," her mother said, with a tight smile that looked like it hurt to hold. "About how much of yourself you give away before you have nothing left." Nora rolled her eyes, which was unusual for her. She didn't do lazy gestures. "We were talking about the porch light," she said. "I told them it was too bright." "It's a light," I said. "It's a sign," she said. Her father touched the glass of the window like he could press through it. "You're both young," he said. "You don't know how sticky people can make you." "I know," Nora said. "I know more than you think." Her mother's mouth softened for a second. "We're trying," she said to me, as if she needed me to know that. "I see that," I said. I did. I saw that they were trying to talk their daughter into a shape that would stop scaring them. They left soon after. When the door closed, Nora stood very still. Then she turned to me and said, "Do you want to see something?" She said it the way kids say, "You want to see my trick?" I said okay, because that's what I always said. She went to the bedroom and came back with a shoebox. Inside were more envelopes, more dates, more words. She handed me one. It said, "When I keep you." "What is this?" I asked again, and I meant it bigger now. "It's a path," she said, "so I don't lose my place, so you don't get lost." "I'm not lost," I said. "Not yet," she said, "but you will be if people keep pulling." People. I wanted to laugh and shake her and kiss her all at once. People like my family. People like your family. People like Mark. People like anyone who isn't you. She nodded. "Yes," she said. "Exactly." "Nora," I said, "that's not how it works." "It will be," she said, soft and sure. I looked at the envelopes. I looked at her. I looked at the wall where the shadow of the tree trembled like it was afraid to be seen. I wanted to tell her to stop. I wanted to tell her to go. I wanted to tell her I loved her, and I did not. I wanted to tell her that everything good in the world is a series of open doors, and you can't nail them shut without suffocating. I didn't. I said, "I'm going home. We'll talk tomorrow." "Okay," she said. No fight, no plea, Just that small nod. Tomorrow. Outside, the air felt like it was waiting. I walked fast. I checked behind me twice and then a third time. When I got home, the porch light hummed, steady, ordinary, alive. Inside, Lila had fallen asleep on the couch with a book on her face. My mom had a bowl on the counter with bread rising under a towel. My dad's shoes were by the door, pointed toward the stairs. Everything was itself. I stood in the kitchen and breathed the bread smell and tried to believe in normal. Before bed, I checked the locks. Front door, back door, side gate. I put a chair in front of the back door, not because I needed to, but because it made some muscle inside me unclench. I brushed my teeth. I turned off my light. I lay down. The house sighed and creaked and existed. I fell asleep staring at the crack in the wall. I woke to my phone buzzing. A message from Nora. I'm sorry for making it hard. I know how to make it easy. Then another. Trust me. Then nothing. I stared at the words until they no longer looked like words. I typed back, "What does that mean?" and stared at the 3 dots that showed she was typing. They disappeared, came back, disappeared, nothing. I didn't sleep after that. I watched the window get lighter. I heard my dad's alarm. I listened to the water run. I stood up. I opened my door. The house was quiet. I went to the kitchen. The bowl on the counter was empty. The towel was folded neatly beside it. My stomach went cold in a way that made the skin on my arms tighten. I turned. I went to the living room. The couch cushion was slightly bent where Lila's head had been, but she wasn't there. I went to the stairs. "Nora?" I heard myself say, before my brain caught up to my mouth. No answer. I took the stairs 2 at a time. My parents' door was open. Their bed was made. This is not a thing my parents do before coffee. My mom's glasses were on the nightstand. My dad's watch ticked softly. Lila's room was empty. The whale sticker on her closet door smiled at me. I stood in the hall with my hand on the wall to keep from tipping over. I called out, "Mom?" and "Dad?" and then "Lila?" and my voice sounded wrong, like it was coming from a mouth I wasn't using. For a second, one long, thin second, I told myself they had gone for donuts. I told myself they were at the corner waving at the baker, and he was slipping an extra cream filled into the bag for Lila. I told myself, and my body did not believe me. My phone buzzed once in my pocket. I fumbled it out. A message from an unknown number, an address I recognized, and 2 words, "Come now." I should have called someone. I should have done the smart thing. I put on my shoes and left the house and ran. The address was a storage facility on the edge of town, low buildings in rows, doors painted faded red. The fence buzzed. The office was closed. The gate was open. I walked in. My breath sounded too loud. A door stood open halfway down the row. The light inside the unit was on. The concrete floor was clean. The smell was metal and dust. I don't know what I thought I would find. I don't know what I thought I could do. I only know that when I reached the open door and looked in, I felt the world turn like a slow, heavy wheel and stop in a place where the map didn't match the ground. Nora stood in the middle of the unit. She wore a white shirt with the sleeves pushed up. Her hair was tied back. She looked like she did when she was cutting carrots at my mother's sink. "Hi," she said. "You came." My mouth wouldn't open. When it did, the word that came out was, "Where?" She tilted her head. "They'll be here soon," she said. "Then you don't have to keep choosing." "What did you do?" I asked, and my voice was not mine. It was thin and high and strange. "I made it easy," she said. Behind her in the corner was a stack of boxes, on top a jar. Inside the lemon flowers she'd brought my mother, dried now, brown at the edges. She noticed me looking. "I wanted to keep the nice parts," she said. "Nora," I said. I took a step forward. I reached toward her and stopped myself at the last second, because I didn't know if touching her would make the ground give way. "Where are they?" "On their way," she said, almost happy. "And then we can be together without the noise." My phone buzzed. Another message from the unknown number. Just one line this time. "I'm sorry." I looked at her. She smiled at me like we were in the coffee shop, like we were on the library steps, like she was picking up my rhythm and walking inside it. She said, "I told you I like loud, but not when it takes you away." I should have run. I should have tackled her. I should have called the police with my thumbs shaking and my breath short and my heart learning a new way to be. I did none of those things. I stood there and fought for air and said, "Slow," like I was explaining weather to a child. "If you love me, you won't hurt them. If you love me, you'll stop." She looked at me with a softness that made my skin crawl. "If I love you," she said, and her voice was calm, the wire gone now, "I can't stop." The door behind me rolled down with a rattling final sound. The light hummed. My phone buzzed once more and died in my hand. My lungs forgot their job. She took one step toward me, then another, and held out her hand like we were at the bus stop, like she was telling me to trust her mouth when she kissed me, like she had a map she'd drawn in pencil, and I was the path. "Come here," she said. I did. The door rattled shut and my ears filled with the hum of the single light. Nora's hand was still out. I kept my feet where they were. I felt the old instinct to be polite, the one drilled into me by 1,000 soft requests. Hold the door, lower your voice, say thanks even when you don't mean it. I fought it like I was pushing back against a current. "You said they're on their way," I said. "What does that mean?" "It means," she said, as if explaining a recipe, "there's a point where a decision flips, and everything after it belongs to that decision. It's already flipped. You didn't answer me. I am answering you." I took out my phone to call my mother and saw the dead screen. I tried to wake it with my thumb. Nothing. I slid the back off and put it back on as if that would help. It didn't. I slid it into my pocket and stared at Nora. "Open the door," I said. She studied me like she studied textbook pages. "If I open the door," she asked, "what will you do?" "I'll go get them." "They're not here," she said. "You know that." "I'll go home." "You'll be too late," she said, and there was no drama in it. It was the way she might say rain makes the sidewalk dark. "What did you do?" I asked again, and my throat tightened around the last word. Her mouth twitched like she wanted to smile because I kept asking the wrong way. "I took care of the parts that hurt you," she said. "I told you I would make it easy." There's a certain kind of panic that feels like your body is split. Half of you wants to run until your legs give out. The other half wants to lie down and pretend to be a log. Neither half helps. I walked to the door and put my fingers under the metal lip and tried to lift. It didn't move. The muscles in my forearms shook. I tried again, harder. The sound I made belonged to someone who didn't understand how doors work. "Don't hurt yourself," she said. "You'll need your hands." "For what?" "To hold on," she said. I banged the door with my palm until the pain ran up into my elbow. I turned around and leaned on it and slid down and let my head hit my knees. She waited. She was good at that. She could sit inside silence like it was a chair she'd chosen. When I could talk, I said, "Tell me." She nodded, like I'd finally reached the right place in her plan. "Your parents will be sleeping soon," she said. "They won't feel anything. Your sister will be next to your mother. She falls asleep fast after reading. She always has." "How do you know that?" My voice came out hoarse. "I spend time with you," she said. "I spend time with them. I notice what matters." "You never stayed over," I said, and hated myself for gifting her the word never like it was proof of anything. "I didn't need to," she said. "I learned the house in daylight." I pictured the bowl on the counter, the towel folded, the quiet that felt wrong. I didn't want to see anything else. My mind ran to the edges and then refused to look over. "I didn't want noise," she said, softer. "I wanted peace." "How?" "You know how the house smells when your mother bakes," she said. "Warm and soft, like someone has been kind to the air. It will be like that for them. They won't even wake up." She watched me fight for breath. "I wouldn't hurt them. Not in a way that hurts." "You're talking about hurting them," I said. "You're talking about ending them." "I'm talking about finishing the decision," she said, "so you can stop being torn." "You had no right," I said. The words should have rung like a bell. They sounded like metal in the wrong place. "I had love," she said. She didn't look triumphant. She looked tired in a way I had never seen. Sometimes that's more powerful than right. I didn't yell. I didn't jump up. I didn't throw the box. I thought I would do those things if I ever stood in a room like this and heard this. I thought the movie of me would be that brave. I stared at the small dried flowers in the jar. I stared at her wrists, the thin bones there, the pale line of a scar I hadn't noticed before. I thought about the first time I met her and how she tucked her headphone cord into her sleeve. I thought about how careful she was with carrots. "This is wrong," I said, because I wanted something simple to hold. "Yes," she said, "it is also necessary." "For who?" "For us." There was a soft mechanical clack somewhere above us. She reached into her pocket and clicked something. The motor on the door whirred and the slats started to lift. It moved slow, like a yawn. The light from outside looked dull and flat. Air came in that didn't smell like dust. She didn't try to stop me when I ducked under and ran. I ran until my chest burned and my legs felt like they belonged to different people. I ran out past the fence and down the road and cut across a field and jumped a ditch and cursed at a weed that tried to hook my ankle and kept moving. I ran all the way home. When I turned onto my street, I could see the porch. The light was off. The curtains were the same. The door was shut. The world didn't look burned. That almost convinced me. I pulled my key out and missed the lock twice. I went in. The air inside was heavy and sweet. My brain refused the smell for the first 3 steps. On the 4th, it let the knowledge in. I don't remember the next minute. There is a blank, and then there is me in my parents' room, and the bed is made, and the pillows are neat, and I am trying to decide if I can pull the covers back. There is me in Lila's doorway, and the whale sticker is smiling, and the book is open on her rug. There is me back in the hall, and the house is quiet in a way that is not quiet. I think I called out. I must have. The sound sits somewhere outside time. My neighbor's dog barked. A car went by. I stood at the top of the stairs with my hand on the railing like I had climbed a mountain and had to remember how to come down. The smart part of my brain, the small thin part that never gives up even when the rest of me lies down in the road, told my hand to pick up the old landline phone in the kitchen, the one my mother kept, just in case. I did. I dialed 3 numbers. My voice told a stranger something I didn't want to hear. Even while I said it, part of me thought if I said it wrong, it wouldn't be true. People came, shirts with badges, shoes that don't make noise, tape that sticks to itself and to the doorway, hands that don't touch unless they have to, voices that learn to sound careful in rooms that ask for careful. I stood on the front step with my mouth open and my tongue dry. Someone put a blanket around my shoulders like my body had asked for it. Someone asked me if there was anyone I could call. I tried to say Mark's name and it broke. I said it again. It still broke. Nora appeared quietly. She was across the street, then beside me. Her hands were in her sleeves. She didn't try to touch me. She didn't cry. She looked at the door of my house the way someone looks at a closed book they already know by heart. A woman with a clipboard asked, "Who is this?" "This is Nora," I said. "Are you together?" the woman asked, meaning the word in the way the world asks it. "Yes," Nora said. I didn't say anything. The woman wrote something down and said she was sorry. She said I should sit. No one would tell me anything at first. They don't say things in certain words until they have to. The house filled with movement. People went up and down the stairs like they were walking on the surface of a pond without breaking it. I watched shoes. I watched the worn places on carpet. I watched a crumb stuck to a chair leg. I watched the clock on the stove. Not the numbers, just the little blinking light in the corner. I watched Nora's hands. When they did say it, they used a tone like they were lowering a box. They said the words they always say. They said they were very sorry. They said someone would take me somewhere else. They said there were procedures. They did not say my mother's name. They did not say my father's name. They did not say my sister's name. I filled those in myself, and it felt like swallowing pins. I don't remember when Mark arrived. His face looked wrong, like he had borrowed it. He took the blanket off my shoulders and put his jacket there instead. He said my name like it was a rope. He didn't ask where Nora had been or why she was there. He looked at her once, and then not again. They took me to the station. They gave me water I didn't drink. They asked me for a timeline. They asked me if anyone had a reason to hurt my family. The answer should have been no. The answer sat in my throat and wouldn't come out. I told them about the message with the address. I told them I had gone. They asked me who sent it. I told them I didn't know. I did not say her name. I could not make my mouth put her in that sentence. They asked me if I lived with anyone. I said no. They asked me where I was the night before. I told them about the storage place and the door and the light and the box with envelopes. I did not tell them what she said about making it easy. The words belonged to a room with a closed door. The words felt like if I said them out loud, they would turn on me. A man with a neat beard and tired eyes talked to me about shock. He said my mind might be protecting me by hiding details. He said it might be withholding things that would be painful until I could stand them. He said this like a promise. I wanted it to be true. Then he asked me if I could think of anyone who had been too interested in my family. Yes, I said. And I meant it. And my mouth still wouldn't give the name. They let me sleep in a small room with a light that buzzed and a window that didn't open. I didn't sleep. My body lay down. My head ran and ran. In the morning, someone I didn't know made me toast and pushed it toward me, and I chewed even though it tasted like paper. Another person asked if I had somewhere I could stay. I said Mark. They nodded. They wrote something. Everything was a list now. I stepped out into daylight, and it felt like the sky had been changed overnight. Mark drove me to his place. He didn't turn on the radio. He kept both hands on the wheel. He said, "Do you want me to call anyone?" And I said, "No," because there was no one to call. He said, "You can stay as long as you want." And I said, "Okay." He said, "I'm sorry." And I said, "Me too." And neither of us said what we meant because the real words were too sharp. Nora texted. She said, "I'm here." Then, "Do you need anything?" Then, "Do you want me to come?" I stared at the last one until the letters blurred. I typed, "No." It was the first time I had told her not to come. She didn't reply. By the end of that day, everyone knew. People my mother knew from the bakery. People my father knew from the hardware store. Parents from Lila's class. Teachers. The lady who always picked the bruised apples because she said they tasted sweeter. They said nice things on the internet and put little hearts on them. They left flowers on our porch. And then someone took the flowers away because the porch was part of the case. The porch turned into something that had rules. I went back to the house once with a man who unlocked doors and watched me not touch anything. I stood in the kitchen and looked at the blank spot where the bowl had been. I looked at the chair in front of the back door and thought about how the chair had been there and meant nothing. I walked into Lila's room and sat on her bed and put my hand on her pillow and waited for it to be warm. It wasn't. The man cleared his throat softly in the hall. I nodded without turning. On the second night at Mark's, Nora called. I let it ring. On the third, she sent a picture of the whale sticker on her phone case with the caption, "Crew member still here." I put the phone face down and then face up again because I had promised ghosts. On the fourth, she left a bag on Mark's porch with groceries, fruit, bread, a jar of honey. There was a note, "Drink water." Mark brought it inside and set it on the counter and didn't comment. He chopped the fruit and ate some and pushed the bowl toward me, and I ate because that's what bodies do when someone hands them a bowl and a spoon. The police asked me more questions. They asked me about enemies. They asked me about old arguments. They asked about money. They asked about locks. They asked what I had seen at the storage unit. They asked for the address. They went there. I don't know what they found. They told me very little, which I know now is normal. At the time, it felt like they were holding my life in their hands and refusing to show me the shape. I thought about walking into the station and saying Nora's name and telling them everything from the first coffee to the envelopes to the porch light speech. But the story sounded crazy even inside my own head. It sounded like something people say when they want attention. It sounded like a blame you throw at a person who loved you too hard, when really the world just breaks sometimes, for reasons that don't make sense. Also, and this is the worst part, I did not want them to take her away. I wanted them to fix what she had done without touching her. I wanted two things that couldn't both happen. A few days later, Nora's parents were on the news. Not dressed up, just in front of a building with glass that reflects people walking by. The caption under their picture said there had been an incident at their townhouse. The details were thin and cautious. The reporter stood near a hedge and spoke in that low, public voice. They did not use the words I was waiting for. They said things like found and unresponsive. They said no signs of forced entry. They said neighbors had noticed a smell and called. They said authorities were looking into the possibility of a malfunction. They did not say Nora's name. I called her. She picked up with, "Hi," like we were starting in a warm, safe place. "I saw," I said. "I'm at my apartment," she said. "They're coming to ask me questions." She said it like, "We're out of milk." "I'm coming over," I said. "No," she said. "Not today." "Nora, if you come," she said, "they'll try to make you a part of it the wrong way." "What is the right way?" I asked. "With me," she said. I went anyway. Her door was locked. I knocked. She opened it a crack and looked at me through the space like she was letting me see one eye before the other. "They'll be here soon," she said. "You shouldn't be here when they come. I need to see you." She hesitated. Then she opened the door and stepped back. Her apartment looked like it had been reset. The photos were gone again. The jar with dried flowers was on the shelf above the sink. The lemon on the counter was new. The knife was clean. "I didn't mean for it to be like this," she said. "I wanted it to be quieter." "Your parents," I said. "They wouldn't let go," she said. "They told me I was sick for loving you. They told me I was dangerous. They said they'd talk to your parents. They said they'd fix it." She ran a hand over her hair and smoothed a piece that wasn't out of place. "They didn't understand that it was already fixed. So I had to help them let go." "You helped them," I repeated, each word heavy. "They weren't happy," she said. "They were tired of their own rules. They were tired of me breaking them. I made it stop." "You make everything sound like the humane option," I said. "Like you smoothed a wrinkled shirt." She looked at me and her eyes did a small, strange thing I couldn't name. "Do you want me to be the kind of person who hurts people on purpose?" she asked. "Or the kind who loves you enough to do what you can't?" "I don't want either," I said. "I want my family back. I want your parents to open their blinds and water their plants and tell you you're stubborn. I want all the boring things." "The boring things were killing you," she said. Piece by piece. She stepped closer. I took the pieces away. A knock at the door interrupted whatever was going to happen next. A flat knock. The kind you hear in TV shows that always means the same thing. She looked at the door and then at me. "Go out the back," she said. "Please. I won't leave you." "Not leave," she said. "Wait." Around the corner, she put her hand on my chest. Listen. She waited for me to nod. I nodded even though my body wanted to stick to the floor. She let them in. 2 people with the practiced polite faces. They asked to come in. They said they were very sorry about her loss. They said they had some questions. She let them sit. I stood outside in the wedge of shade between the buildings and watched the window like a television with the sound off. I saw her nod. I saw her shake her head. I saw her get up and pour water and put lemon slices in the glasses, because that's what she thinks people need when their mouths are dry. I saw the way one of the officers watched her hands. They left with a stack of papers and expressions that didn't tell me anything. When they were gone, she opened the back door and said, "They wanted to know if we fought." "What did you say?" "I told them the truth," she said. "We don't fight. We agree differently, and then we agree again." "What else?" "They asked where I was," she said. "I told them I was with you at the station." She paused. "That's almost true." I wanted to argue about the word almost. I let it go like a person lets go of a railing when they're tired of holding on and their hands hurt more than their fear. "Do you know what this looks like?" I said. "Yes," she said. "It looks like fate. It looks like you removed every person who could tell me no." She didn't answer. I think she wanted to say yes and couldn't figure out how to do it without making me leave. "I can't be with you," I said. Saying it made my stomach twist once, slow, then release. Not now. Maybe not ever. She stared at me. Depending on the light, her eyes looked dark or green. Today they look like the color of a leaf on the first day it changes. "You don't mean that." "I do." "I made it easy," she said, helpless, like a person who has baked a cake and can't understand why no one wants a slice. "You made a hole," I said, "and now you want me to live in it." "You already live in it," she said. "There are choices that feel like bites you have to take. You close your eyes and chew. I took one. "I'm going to tell them about the storage place," I said. Her mouth tightened and then softened. She walked to the sink. She ran water over her hands like she needed to remember they existed. "If you tell them," she said, "I'll tell them about you." "About me?" "How you knew," she said. "How you still came to see me. How you waited outside while they asked me questions. How you kept me in your pocket and didn't take me out and show them." "That doesn't mean what you think it means," I said. "It means we're together," she said. "No," I said, and my voice had that wire in it now, thin and steady. "It means I was stupid." "You're not stupid," she said. "You're loyal." "I'm leaving," I said. "I know," she said, and her face did something that made me think of the day I put the whale sticker on my laptop because Lila asked me to. "But you'll come back." I didn't answer. I went to Mark's and told him everything. All of it, in order. He didn't interrupt. He put his hand on his jaw and rubbed the place under his ear like he does when he's thinking. When I finished, he said, "You need to tell them." "I'm afraid they won't believe me," I said. "Or worse, that they will." "They will," he said, "and they should." He drove me to the station. I walked in. I asked for the tired-eyed man. I told him about the storage unit like it was a confession. I told him about the door and the light. I told him about the address message and the dead phone and the way the air smelled in my house. I didn't cast spells. I didn't say things like, "She bewitched me." I used the words you use when you talk to people who record what you say. He listened. He wrote. He asked me for the address again. He asked me to describe the envelopes. He asked me about the jar with flowers. He asked me if I had ever felt unsafe with her. This stuck me. I had to pull the answer out like a splinter. "Yes," I said. "Why?" "Because she loves me more than anything else," I said, and his eyebrows went up a fraction and then came down again. They moved fast after that in ways that looked slow from the outside. They got a warrant. They searched her apartment. They took the box with envelopes. They took her phone. They took the knife on the counter even though it was clean. They took the jar with dried flowers. They took pictures of the lemon. They asked her to come in and talk. She did. She went with them like she was going to a dentist. She looked over her shoulder once when she walked to the car. Her eyes flicked to me. It wasn't a plea. It wasn't a threat. It was a kind of count. 1. They kept her for hours. They have rules about how long and when you can ask people questions without a lawyer. I learned those rules that week like I learned the bus schedule as a kid. They asked her where she was, the night my house turned into a picture I can't stop seeing. They asked her about the storage unit. She said it wasn't hers. The unit wasn't in her name. It was in a company's name that led to another company's name that led to a manager with a mailbox. They asked her about my parents. She said she loved them. She asked for water with lemon. She asked to use the bathroom. She asked to see me. They didn't let her. They asked me to identify the envelopes. I did. They asked me to talk about the way she spoke about my family. I did. I used the sentences I had memorized without knowing I was memorizing them. "Love is a pizza," I said. The tired-eyed man looked at me like I had just told him a math answer that used fruit. They released her. There wasn't enough yet. This is the part I didn't understand then and do now. Not enough isn't the same as nothing. Not enough is the state of the world most of the time. She didn't call me that night. I didn't sleep. Mark stayed up too. He drank coffee and watched some show where people fix cars and said, "If she shows up, I'm calling them." I said, "She won't show up." And the air in the room got heavy because of how sure I sounded. We waited anyway. In the morning, she slid a letter under Mark's door. I saw it when I opened it to get the paper he never reads. My name was on the front. Inside, a single sheet in her thin, straight letters. "Tell me to stop and I will. Tell me to finish and I will. Tell me nothing, and I'll keep you safe the way I know. No threat. No confession. Just that." I took it to the station. The tired-eyed man read it and pressed his lips together and said, "This is a message to you, not to us." He put it in a clear sleeve and wrote something on a label and slid it into a folder the color of weather. I went to my parents' house every day. The tape came off. The door was unlocked. It was still a place where you could walk into a room and see a cup and know who had put it there. I sat at the table and tried to play back whole days like movies. I made a list of things my mother said on autopilot and realized most of them were questions. I made a list of things my father did with his hands when he wasn't holding anything. Tapping, drumming, squeezing, opening. I sat in Lila's room and put the whale sticker from my laptop in my pocket because I couldn't stand to see it glowing on the smooth silver. I was starting to understand that I would have to carry certain small things myself, or they would be swallowed by the larger thing. People brought casseroles. They said if I needed anything, I should ask. I had no idea how to ask for the thing I needed. I ate what they carried because food makes other people feel useful. That was something my mother had taught me without saying it. Let people feed you when they don't know what else to do. A week after the storage unit, Nora asked to meet me in a public place. She suggested the coffee shop with the chalkboard menu. I said yes, because part of me is still the boy who wants to see if the person who loved him is still in the person who hurt him. She was early. She always was. She wore a jacket I hadn't seen before, longer, like she was dressing as a person who goes to meetings. She already had water. No lemon. That was new. I won't stay long, she said when I sat. I just need to give you something. What? A chance, she said. For what? To decide, she said. I did a lot of deciding for you. That was wrong. You get to choose too. We can leave and start over. We can go somewhere with a new name that feels like your mouth. We can pick a cabinet and decide where the cups go, and no one will move them but us. Or we can end this now. I will live, and you will live, and the line between us will be a fence. I don't jump. You're offering me a choice, I said, after you took every choice. I took the loud ones, she said. This is the real one. I laughed. It came out dry and thin. You think we can go somewhere and open a cabinet and be new? Yes, she said. I do. They'll find you. They won't, she said. Not if you come with me. They'll think I ran alone. They'll think I couldn't handle it. They'll put me in a file called Gone. You killed them, I said. I kept my voice low because I didn't want to be the person who broke the room. You hurt my family. You hurt yours. You hurt Mark. You put your fingers on every part of my life and pressed hard. I held on, she said. Holding isn't pressing. It is when you leave marks, I said. She took a breath. Her hands shook for the first time since I'd known her. It wasn't dramatic. It was the smallest tremor. She flattened them on the table and they went still. I can't be without you, she said. I tried when you stayed at Mark's. I sat on the floor and tried to breathe like a person who doesn't have the rest of her body somewhere else. I can't do it. I don't know how. I don't want to know how. You have to, I said, because I won't go with you. I thought you'd say that, she said, and something like relief crossed her face and then was gone. I wanted to hear you say it anyway, because then when I wake up in the middle of the night, I can hold that sentence and stop my hands from doing something worse. This was the worse, I said. I know, she said. She reached into her bag. My stomach snapped tight. She put a small object on the table. A key. Not the one she'd given me before. Another. It's to a place I rented, she said. There are letters. Some are for you. Some are for them, even though they won't read them. I needed to put the words somewhere. If you take them to the station, they'll say I'm talking to myself. That's fine. I am. I won't take your letters to the station, I said. I'm tired of being your messenger. She nodded. Then burn them, she said. But read the one with your name first. It says goodbye the way I can't say it with my mouth. You can say it, I said. Say it now. She looked at me, and for a second she was the girl next to the brick column, quiet in the noise. Goodbye, Jake, she said. She said it like a wet match. Then she stood, put her jacket sleeves back in order, and left. I sat with the key and the word goodbye in my hands and the chalkboard menu in my eyes until a barista asked if I needed anything, and I realized I still hadn't bought a coffee. I left without ordering. Outside, the air felt like it had changed while I was sitting. Mark was waiting with the car. He didn't ask what she'd said. He didn't have to. He could read new lines on my face now, the ones I didn't have before. We went to the address. It was a small unit in a row of brick buildings near the river. The door stuck a little, then opened. Inside, a table, a chair, a stack of envelopes bound with twine. On the top, my name. Under that, other names. Mom, Dad, Lila, Mark, me, us. There was a glass jar with a lemon sliced and floating in water like a small sun. There was a box of matches. There was a wastebasket. I'm going to read mine, I said. I'll wait in the hall, Mark said. He is the best kind of friend. He knows when to hold the door and when to hold the air. I opened the letter with my name. Her handwriting was neat, straight lines like train tracks. I read, Jake, I thought I could write this without the word love and say everything else around it and it would be enough. It isn't. I love you. I know what I did. I don't need the world to agree that it was love to know that it was. I know the difference between wanting someone and wanting their life. I wanted yours because without it mine was noise. That's not a defense. It's a temperature. I can list the ways I was kind. I can list the ways I stopped myself from being worse. Those are not the same as being good. You made a room that felt like a boat that wouldn't flip. I wanted to take the water away, so there would be no chance. Boats belong on water. I understand that now in a way that hurts. You told me once you like being found. I found you. Then I didn't stop. That's on me. The worst part is that I still think about your mother's bread, and your father's quiet, and your sister's wail, and I feel gratitude folded into the grief. Maybe that's the only apology that means anything. I am grateful. I am sorry. If you keep this, hide it in a place that smells like what you want your life to smell like. If you burn it, I'll know you finally chose something without me touching the choice. Goodbye. I didn't cry reading it. I didn't throw the letter. I folded it and put it back in the envelope and put the envelope back on the stack and tied the twine and set them all in the wastebasket. I struck a match. It flared and went out because I didn't hold it right. I tried again, cupping my hand. This one caught. I held the flame to the corner until it browned and then glowed and then turned to black lace. I watched the letters go up. I watched the edge curl into itself like a leaf. Smoke rose and was swallowed by the room. When it was done, I opened the window and waved the smoke out with my hand, because I still have my mother's manners. When I stepped into the hall, Mark looked at my face and nodded once, and didn't ask if I had read his. We left. I locked the door and slid the key back under it, because there are doors you don't keep keys to. I waited for something to change the next day. I waited for a call or a knock or a headline. Nothing happened. That was almost worse. The quiet hung like a coat you couldn't take off. 2 mornings later, A fisherman found a car in the river downstream where the water slows. It wasn't deep. The car had rolled and caught in a net of weeds. The news showed long shots because they don't show the inside. They said a name eventually. They said it slowly. They said a lot of other words with it. They said alone. They said note. They said investigation ongoing. They said no sign of foul play, because they love that phrase even when it doesn't fit. I sat with Mark on his floor with the sound off and watched the crawl at the bottom of the screen and felt my stomach find a new place inside me. He turned off the TV and said, "I'm sorry." And I laughed once in a way that made my chest hurt. "I'm sorry too," I said. The station called me. The tired-eyed man asked if I could come in. He said they had found some things. He said there were letters. He said my name was on one. He asked if I had a place I could sit down. I told him I was already sitting. I went. I read a copy of the same letter I had burned. This version had a stamp in the corner and a label and someone else's note about chain of custody. I signed something to say I had seen it. They asked me again to go over the last week. I did. They asked if I wanted to talk to someone. I said no. They gave me a card anyway. It had a name and a number for a person who teaches people how to breathe after they have been in a room without air for too long. They kept the case open because they have to. Then they closed it because they do that too. The world adjusted around the hole. People asked me how I was, and I said the thing people say when the truth is ugly. School kept going. Professors sent emails with extensions. I dropped classes one by one until there were none left. I walked a lot, from my parents' street to the river and back. I picked up mail and put it in a pile. I sat on my porch and watched the light change and thought about changing the bulb, and then didn't. Sometimes I think about the storage unit, the way the door sounded sliding down, the way the light hummed, the jar of dried flowers with their edges like paper. I think about the moment where I could have told her I loved her and meant it, and watched what that did. I think about the moment where I could have hurt her and stopped other things, and watched what that did. I took the path where I did neither. I stood, and I spoke, and I ran, and I watched. That's the part that doesn't go away. Not the what she did, but the what I didn't. Mark tried to pull me back into a life. We went to games and sat near the top and pretended to care. We drove nowhere and listened to songs from when we were too young to understand much and let the words fill the space so we didn't have to. He brought me to his mother's house for dinner once, and she set an extra place at the table and pretended not to know where to put it, the way people do when they are careful of ghosts. She asked about my classes, and I said something bland, and she looked relieved like she had opened the right cabinet, and the cups were where she expected. I went back to the library on campus and sat in the chair where Nora had once underlined a page like a breath. I stayed there until the building closed. I didn't think about her every minute. That surprised me. Grief is not a straight line. It's a map with folds. Some days I turned a corner and there she was, leaning against a column, watching me with that exactness that used to make me feel lucky and later made me feel hunted. Some days I turned a corner and there was nothing. One afternoon I found a thin book in the returns bin at the library desk. No cover, just a title on the spine, On Keeping. Inside the word hello in thin black pen on the first page. I stood there with my fingers on the edges and felt like the floor had tilted an inch. I looked around. No one watched me. I checked the card in the back. No name. I told myself it was a coincidence. Then I checked it out and took it home and read it cover to cover and put it in the drawer with my socks and didn't tell anyone I had it, because there are some things you hold even when you're supposed to let go. Years pass in ways you don't expect them to. They pass while you wait at lights and while water boils. They pass in lines and in rooms where you fill out forms. They pass while you place your keys in the same dish each night. They pass even when you stand still on a back step and look at a porch light and think about someone telling you it's too bright. I change the bulb. It makes a softer circle now. It doesn't announce. It just shows you where the step is. I graduated late. I took a job shelving books at the library because my head worked best around silent stacks. I started saying yes when people asked me to go to dinner. I started saying no to things that took more of me than they gave back. I learned to lock the back door without checking it 3 times. I got rid of the chair in front of it. I started leaving the window open when it rained, just an inch. There are days I feel normal, whatever that means. Then a song comes on in a cafe with a chalkboard menu, and my hands start to shake, and I have to breathe like someone taught me that breathing is a thing you can do on purpose. There are days I can say her name out loud. There are days I can't say any names at all, because each one feels loaded. Sometimes I stand at the river. I don't look at the spot where they pulled the car out. I look at the bend upstream where the water is a little faster. People throw flowers in and watch them spin and get caught, and then free themselves. I don't throw anything. I think about the letters I burned, and whether smoke counts as a kind of keeping. I think about Lila, and the way she cut stars out without folding the paper first, because she liked the odd shapes. I think about my mother's hands kneading dough, and pressing her palms in, and folding the soft back over itself. I think about my father's quiet humming that wasn't any song I knew, but always found a way to end. I think about Nora and the way she looked at cups. I know you want me to tell you I feel safe now. Some days I do. Some days the world feels like a room that knows my name and doesn't want anything from me. Some days I wake and feel a hand on my chest that isn't there. I put my own hand there and wait until my heart steadies. I drink water. I eat something green. I stretch. Mark met someone. They are good together. I watch him be gentle and think about how much work it is to be kind in a world where people think love is a reason to do anything. He invites me over on weekends. We cook. We make too much food and send each other home with containers because there's comfort in opening a fridge and seeing something someone else put there for you. One night on his couch, he asked, "Do you ever think about what it would have been like if you had said yes at that coffee shop?" "All the time," I said. And nothing," I said. "It would have been the same story somewhere else with a different river." He nodded. He knows answers that end are gifts. In the spring, I took down the whale sticker from my pocket and pressed it onto the inside of the kitchen cabinet where the cups are. It looks at me every morning when I reach in and reminds me that I keep small things on purpose. A letter came to the house addressed to my mother months after, forwarded and forwarded again by machines that don't care about grief. Inside was a recipe card from a friend. On the back, in small, careful letters, was a note. "We're still here. Love, Jay." I put the card in the drawer with the socks and the book. That drawer has become a kind of museum. Sometimes when I'm shelving returns, I find a slip of paper inside a book that says, "Hello," in thin black pen. I don't know if it's her. I don't know if it's a trick the world plays on me because it knows I'm weak in certain places. I leave the paper there. Let the next person find it. Let it be their map for a minute. I still walk past the storage facility sometimes. The gate buzzes. The doors look the same. I stand on the other side of the fence and look down the row at all the rolled metal like mouths. I don't go in. There's nothing for me in there. The decision flipped. I live on the side it landed on. I don't have to like it. I just have to keep walking. I'm not telling this because I want you to be scared of girls with quiet hands. I'm telling it because I don't know how else to carry it. And maybe if I put it here, outside me, it can sit in the air and be part of the noise the world makes, and not just my own. If you are the sort of person who hears a hum in a light and thinks it's speaking to them, turn the switch off and sit in the dark and see what you hear then. If you are the sort of person who likes to be found, learn how to be quiet without hiding. If you are the sort of person who loves too hard, learn how to hold your hands open. I keep my cups on the second shelf. The chipped one is at the front because I reach for it on mornings when the world feels heavy, and I need to remember that not everything that breaks means it has to be thrown away. The smooth ones sit behind it, waiting their turn. I take one down and pour water. I stand at the sink and drink. I stand at the window and breathe. I stand in the doorway to my parents' room and say their names until my mouth remembers how. I stand in Lila's room and let my eyes move over the shapes she drew on the walls. Little crooked stars she thought no one saw. If there is a moral, I don't know it. I know what happened and what didn't. I know what I did and what I didn't. I know she was a person who could cut carrots evenly and kept lemons for people whose mouths were dry. I know she loved me in a way that turned everything else into an obstacle. I know I still miss the peace she offered, even though it was built on a place where nothing could live. The last time I saw her, it was in a reflection, not on purpose. I was walking past a shop window and thought I saw her shoulder, that familiar slope. I turned fast, hard in my throat. It was my own reflection overlapping someone else's. It was a trick of the glass. I stood there until my pulse came down. Then I went home. I locked the back door once. I changed the porch light once it burned out. I took a cup from the cabinet and said hello to the whale. Sometimes at night the house settles, and the little sounds that used to be comfort press in the wrong places. I put a hand on my chest and wait for my heart to do its small, steady work. I tell it the same thing every time. Stay. 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 When I dream, it isn't always of her. Sometimes it's my mother's hands shaping dough. Sometimes it's my father's humming turning into a tune I can almost name. Sometimes it's Lila on stage remembering to breathe between her lines. Sometimes it's just a porch light, softer now, showing the step. When I wake, I listen. If there is a hum, I let it be a hum. If there is a knock, I remember that not every knock is a story starting. Sometimes it's just a neighbor with a package delivered to the wrong porch. What I'm saying is that I am learning how to live in the part after the part you think you can't get past. It isn't pretty. It isn't dramatic. It's a lot of small choices you make without telling anyone. It's a lot of cups on a shelf and keys in a dish, and socks that don't match, and pictures you don't frame. It's the whale inside the cabinet, where no one else can see it. And that's okay, because it's not for them. If love is a pizza, like she said, then this is me in the kitchen making a small one with too much sauce and eating it over the sink and not apologizing when I drip on the floor. If love is a map, this is me folding it wrong, on purpose, so it fits in my pocket, and I can go outside without holding it up and blocking my view. If love is a decision that flips, this is me standing on the side it landed on and building something that will hold my weight. She once told me she liked loud. I don't. Not anymore. I like the sound of water coming to a boil. I like the sound of pages. I like the sound of a door closing softly because there's nothing behind it that wants to follow. I like the sound of my own breath in a room where the light hums and means nothing but electricity. I like the sound of my name when Mark says it from the kitchen and asks if I want coffee, and I say yes and mean it. And the yes is just about coffee. There's a box in my closet with things I don't take out often. A sticker backing. A recipe card. A photo of my family at the beach when we went once, and my father stood in the water up to his knees and laughed like a boy. A lemon, dried and brown-edged, because I can't throw it away even though I should. I keep these things because keeping is a kind of proof, not of what happened, of the fact that I didn't vanish into it. People think horror is about shadows and basements and times on clocks. It isn't. It's about someone you let close enough to learn where you keep your cups, deciding that the only way to love you is to empty the cabinet. It's about the part of you that agrees for a second, because the promise of quiet is so soft, you want to lean your head against it. It's about walking away from that promise and learning how to live with noise again. When I put a cup back on the shelf, I listen for the small sound it makes touching wood. It's a quiet click, like a period at the end of a sentence. It says, enough. It says here. It says, this is where things go. I am not okay, and I am okay. Both things can be true. I loved her, and I hate her. Both things can be true. I wanted a life without the parts that pull. I have a life with pulls anyway. Both things are true, and I am still here. If you came to my door and asked if I was home, I would say yes. I would let you in. I would show you where the cups are. I would ask you to keep your voice low because sometimes the house startles. I would offer you water, and maybe a slice of something my mother taught me how to make without a recipe. I would tell you to lock the back door once when you leave. I would walk you out onto the porch and watch you go and stand for a minute under the softer light and let it show me the step, which is still in the same place it's always been. Then I would go back in and close the door with my own hand and breathe. That's my ending. Not big, not clean. A person in a house with a cup and a light and a list of things to do tomorrow. A person who knows the difference now between being found and being kept. A person who can stand in a room with a hum and not mistake it for a voice calling his name.